Thank you. The beauty of the BEMER Vet is its adaptability and its adjustability to fit any size horse, from a cold-blooded draft horse, Clydesdale, to a miniature pony. We also have the aspect of it being cordless, which is really important because when you're working with a potentially stressed out horse in a stall, you don't need cords running around its feet, bumping up against it, or you having a problem there, coming unplugged, it's not working. This is something that you can actually put on the horse and walk away if you want and really not worry about it. It has 3 different programs, and these programs I firmly believe that you could take somebody raised by wolves, put them in a room with the BEMER Vet, and they could figure out how to turn it on and work it. It's really easy. 3 programs, 5, 10, and 15 minutes. You want to start slow with the horse. You want to get them used to the BEMER, and then you want to be consistently inconsistent. And what that means is you're not always just going to put it on number 3, always number 2, always number 1. You're going to kind of go back and forth, and you're going to use a different combination. And that actually is the best way to get the best results on anything. When you're training yourself or athletes, they always interval training is very important, and that's actually what you're doing when you're using the BEMER Vet by doing that. It's very durable, multiple uses on a charge. You can take it into a barn and take it from one horse to the next. It's easily cleaned with some mild detergent if you have to do it in between. The BEMER signal extends past the actual blanket, so if you have a horse blanket on there, you can put it over that so it doesn't get dirty, and it'll still work. It'll penetrate through and go beyond. So that's very important about the BEMER set. Now, this next slide, we're going to pause for a second here because studies prove it, you sense it, and we have a list of things here. Now, I could read these off and say it does this, it does that, and everybody would shake their head and they'd be like, okay, yeah, but as soon as we're done and we walk out there, how many of you do you think could actually explain why? And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, I'm just saying that we need to be better trained when we're presenting BEMER. And to understand why there's a horse set, you have to understand the horse. And this is where we really need to talk for a second. And I will then go through and explain these things, because you need to be able to explain something. If you really understand something, you should be able to explain it to a 6-year-old to make them understand it. And if you can't do that, then you really don't fully understand it yourself, because explanations do not need to be complicated. They don't have to be filled with big words. You should be able to convey what you're trying to say easily and simply. And that's actually what we're going to be getting into. So first of all, the horse. The horse is an example of an animal that has an unbelievable ability to transfer from sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system. It's a mental process, it's a physical process. The horse gets all riled up, stressed out, it's in sympathetic mode, it runs down the racetrack, or it's doing whatever you want it to do, and then it comes back and it's still in that mode. Well, it's very important for that horse to transfer that into parasympathetic mode so it can digest its food, so it can recover, and it can help prevent itself from injury, because the 2 things that BEMER horse set does is prevention and regeneration. So remember those words, that's very important. So this horse is, in the wild, it does this very effectively. It'll run around the range and then it'll stop and it'll eat grass and it goes about its business as far as going back to parasympathetic. But we stress them out. We start training them. We expect them to do this, expect them to do that. We want them to jump over this and that. We put them in a trailer. We take them out. We got a vet visiting them. We have a guy putting iron shoes on the bottom of them. I mean, it's a wonder that they're not total head cases, which some of them are. So we need to help them get back to that relaxation state. And that's what BEMER helps do. It helps condition them. So knowing that this about the horse, that's why there's a horse set, because we know what BEMER does. And this is the genius of BEMER, that the fact that they figured this out, that they didn't just, when I first heard about it, I was thinking, why didn't they do a dog or a cat model? It made more sense financially. But when you really want to show the effects of BEMER, you need a model that you can verify results, that you can get repeatable results, and that you can visually see them. And that's more difficult in other animals, but in the horse, it's pretty evident. So knowing that, BEMER didn't just put pictures of animals up on a board and threw a dart at it and it luckily hit the horse, because otherwise that was the luckiest throw in the world, because they knew what BEMER did and they said, okay, what's the best example that we can use to prove BEMER works? Because the medical panel that I was on, I'm the only one who can say this. In 27 years of practice, I have never once had a patient lie to me. These guys don't lie. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So BEMER knew that. So they said, we're going to do a horse set. And they did a horse set because this is the, this is the Corvette model. This is the Eldorado model of BEMER on the vet line. And they need to show that it works before we bring out other things. You have to show the world that this is the real deal. It works. And it's going to work for other animals too. So knowing that, let's talk about these things so you can explain this to people, because you're going to need to be able to do this. Improves microcirculation, supports parasympathetic processes in the body. Those two kind of go together. Well, that's kind of an easy one for you, because we all know that BEMER helps stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's what it does, right? It increases vasomotion, so it's helping circulation. So the low flux density waveform of the BEMER does that, right? So we kind of have those first two. Boost relaxation and recovery after exertion. So how does it do that? Well, the horse goes out and it's all stressed out, it runs around, we put the BEMER on it, and it helps turn that switch in its head so it can relax, okay? And when the horse relaxes, then the animal will start repairing itself, because it starts digesting its food, because when it's running around, it's not. So now when it's digesting its food, it's getting the nutrients and the blood flow going to everywhere it needs to go to help recover, help prevent, and help regenerate after that exertion. So it helps to put it in that mode. Increases productivity. How in the world does it do that? Well, when your horse is conditioned with the BEMER vet, it gets used to it and it looks forward to it. So when you are trying to load it in a trailer and you BEMER your horse, it loads easier. It comes out easier. When the farrier comes to do his work on its hooves, it's more cooperative. When the vet visits, it's more cooperative, and that saves time. And that extra time can then be used for other things, and that extra time of the horse recovering and being in that relaxed mode, conditioning its brain, helps it be more productive. It's more efficient. So that's how we do that. Now this next one is optimizes your training through greater suppleness. Suppleness, huge word in the horse world. What is suppleness? Definition: the gracefulness of a person or animal that exhibits flexibility and suppleness, right? So I don't know about you, but when I'm looking up the definition of a word and they use that word in the definition, it kind of doesn't do it for me. So you look at a little further and it says the property of being pliant and flexible. Okay, a little better. I got to look up pliant now, but kidding. The next one is adaptability of mind or character. So that's really what we're looking for, is those three, right? Because it is in the horse a process of the mind. We have to turn that switch. And then the body has to be pliant and flexible. It has to be ready to absorb the BEMER signal and get loose. It's like getting in the zone. You see a boxer before a fight, he's jumping around, he's moving his arms, he's getting in the zone. He's mentally preparing himself, and he's physically. As humans, we have the ability to process ourselves and get us into the zone ourselves. With horses, it's different. They don't have that. It's very difficult for them in a stressful situation to calm down on their own. We have to help them. So by doing that with BEMER, by conditioning that horse, it gets used to turning that switch in itself. So as a result, the horse becomes more supple. Now the trainer starts training the horse. The horse is way more open to what the trainer wants to do. And then the horse, when we're done training, gets back and it gets to relax, and he's loving this routine of going back and forth. So he becomes much more efficient. There's more time spent on training as opposed to dealing with just getting the horse calmed down. You can get it in the trailer, you can get it out, you can do everything you need to do with this horse because he's just easier to work with. And that is suppleness, just that ability to be consciously open and physically able to do the things that are desired, that we desire them to do based on them being natural athletes. We want them to perform. Well, they have to practice getting ready like we do, and it helps do that. So hopefully that kind of helps explain suppleness and why the BEMER is so important and why you're going to see a much more productive horse. I've never seen a horse not respond to BEMER positively. Enhances the immune system or resistance to infection. How does that work? Well, when the BEMER is kicking in and the horse is in the parasympathetic tone, you know, if you were to open up a horse, it just looks like a plate of spaghetti in there, but there is order to the chaos. And that food in there that is just constantly sitting in there needs to be peristaltically moved through from, you know, mouth to rear. And when that horse is running and performing, that's not happening. Well, the bacteria in there is still producing gas, and that can expand the horse's intestines, and if it turns on itself, it cuts off blood supply. And when it cuts off blood supply, that part of it could die, it could necrose, it could rupture, and it could kill the horse. So colic, that's referred to as colic, is a number one problem with horses, and it can be a career ender. But if you're constantly having this horse, because BEMER lasts for 12 to 16 hours, right? So when this horse is BEMER'd and you take it off and it's, you know, going to go to sleep for that night, it's encouraging that digestive stuff going on. It's encouraging that horse to relax. So it's just going to prevent infection by properly helping the immune system, which is kind of the heart of your immune system is in your gut anyway. So it's helping that. And that's how it, you know, that's another way of how it helps prevent infection and helps regenerate. Accelerates the recovery process after injuries. Once again, the horse goes out, runs out, maybe it pulls a muscle, maybe it hurts itself, you have damaged tissue, you can use the cuff to do some of the extremities, and you actually start beaming those particular areas specifically where it needs to go to help that animal recover. So the ability of doing the whole horse or doing an individual area just increases your adaptability of the product to help that horse perform better and prevent that injury, help that area recover, help blood flow get to that, help the magic of BEMER, help those interactions in the microvascular areas of the nutrients in, the waste out, the inflammation down. It helps just initiate that and take it to the next level, which otherwise there's just no other device out there that does that. Pre-anesthetic surgery, post-op, the times are enhanced. What this really refers to is that if you've ever seen a horse wake up from anesthesia, it's like bumper cars, okay? You put them in a padded room, you put a huge padded helmet on them, you take a crane, you load them on the floor, you get them comfortable, you get out of the way. Because when he wakes up, it's craziness. So that can be, a lot of horses get hurt when they're waking up. And part of the reason is that when they're under anesthesia, there's an enzyme called CK, and we measure it in the blood. And this is another way of verifying what BEMER does, is that elevates, and it's elevated through what's called rhabdomyolysis, and that's the destruction of muscle tissue. So as the animal's laying there, this enzyme is going up, and the body knows this. So the body will trigger the horse, hey, you need to get up. This is a bad enzyme, it decreases renal function, this can be a problem, get up. So the horse, unbeknownst to itself, because this is unconscious, will start to try to get up before it really needs to. And that leads to problems. I mean, it can, you know, there's many horses, years ago, there was a horse that broke its leg on a track and they set it. They did everything perfect, and the horse had to be put down because after it was like a 16-hour surgery, when the horse stood up, it re-broke its leg because it was going crazy. So BEMER decreases CK levels. So in decreasing CK levels, that horse stays in lateral recumbency longer. And staying in it longer, the horse gets rid of the anesthetic, so when it gets ready to rise, it is almost fully recovered and it gets up almost without any kind of incident. So as a result, it's a much safer recovery. Plus, by BEMERing it before and after, the level of anesthesia used, as I mentioned before, is less.